Hey guys, welcome back to Human Condition. This video is another video in our philosophy series, and this video is what is the Platonic forms? The Platonic forms, I don't know if they call it, that's how you call it, but what are the forms by Plato? The forms are an idea of essence, and it kind of goes off like our last video. We briefly talked about Socratic intellectualism. Plato was the student of Socrates, and he took philosophy. He agreed with a lot of Socrates' ideas, but helped broaden them a little bit through his studies as well. So Plato took Socrates' ideas of the good, like a form of all goodness, and applied it to ideas. For example, the idea of something is a form, whereas the actual thing is, for example, like the idea of a perfect circle, and then drawing a circle. It's hard to make. The reality wouldn't even ever be as perfect as the mind, basically. You can't ever make a perfect circle, but in your mind, you can imagine a perfect circle. And this would be the form. The forms are essences of something. For like essences of a chair, anything, basically you think of, everything you think of has an essence. And when you think about it, that's the essence. But when you see it in reality, that's not the essence, if that makes sense. Not the form. The form comes through the mind, which is pretty interesting. So that's one thing Plato did, was the forms. He also believed in the tripartite soul. I think that's how you say it. And it's 3 layers of the soul: the appetite, the spirit, and the reason. When I first saw this, I thought about Sigmund Freud and his id, ego, and superego, and this philosophy that Plato had like tons of years ago helped form the foundation of Sigmund Freud's id, ego, and superego, which I think is really cool and interesting. But yeah, so basically, Plato believed that the appetite, the reason should also, aka the ego from Sigmund Freud's thing, should guide us as number 1, then the spirit, then the appetite. Appetites are very natural, primitive desires such as like food, intimacy, hunger, intimacy, food. That's the appetite. Spirit is motivation and sometimes feelings like anger, passion, happiness, sadness is spirit. And reason is the logic in the mind of thinking things through. And he believed inside all people, there's the spirit, which is eternal and everlasting. He believed and lived on. Kind of like Socrates also believed the spirit lived on. And they're all attached to what they call the soul, which later Sigmund Freud viewed the soul as kind of like the psyche, but they viewed the soul as like metaphysical. So I think in my opinion the soul could be metaphysical, like you can't, it lives on. But that's what they believed, and Sigmund Freud believed it similarly, but believed it was the psyche. But either way, reason should guide the spirit. The reason and the spirit, aka motivations, emotions that make you act, like anger, passion, should work together with your reason to control your appetites and desires and feelings. The other forms of feelings, such as the impulsive, negative feelings, to make reasonable decisions, to construct your anger to more positive outlets. That's pretty interesting. Going back to the forms. Forms differ from Socrates because Socrates, even though had the form of the good, he talked about the ultimate goodness that we can't see, but we can get closer to through knowledge, but we'll never ever reach that. But we can get close to it, the good. Plato saw this, but also said the forms all come from the good, and they're all also metaphysical, and you can't see them. And through knowledge, we can understand things better. Through this understanding, we can understand our reality through our minds. So Socrates, and I think I talked this in the last video, but Socrates and Plato really helped form the philosophical thing of idealism, mind over matter. Whereas Aristotle, if I'm not mistaken, Plato's student, helped form materialism and more through observations and logic later on. Plato's forms is basically the idea that there are existing things, almost kind of like similar, very close to objective idealism. Things exist that we cannot see, and we can access them through our minds and reach them and understand them through, even though we can't see them, we can perceive them through our thoughts, potentially, which is pretty interesting. And through these thoughts of like the ideal, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, like when you're constructing something, you have to have sometimes it feels like the ideas come before the reality. If you think about it, you got to think through your actions. You have to think through, if you're like an architect making something, you have to put the mind into action and build something through it. And it's the idea that comes first, not the building that you make, kind of, at least in my opinion. So idealism kind of makes sense. I think that's a cool philosophy, but there's some credit to materialism as well, because it's how you observe things and see the world. Also, another interesting thing I was thinking about was like, so Socrates talked a lot about introspection, not observing the world. I've looked this up, I've figured about it. I think, this is my opinion, I could be wrong, Socrates also potentially might have been a little hesitant to try to do what Aristotle did in the future, like observe things, because the pre-Socratic philosophers questions the nature of reality, and back in those times you couldn't ask questions about things as much, and Socrates really helped start not just the question, what am I supposed to do in life, but not just that, but why am I doing what I'm doing. He really helped that form of questioning. And before that, people were questioning that similarly, but what they were questioning more about what reality is. And back at the time, the state religion was polytheistic, so when they questioned anything, the pre-Socratics suffered harshly, similar to Socrates as well, even though he didn't do the same thing. So he probably thought about, hey, I'm not going to question reality, but sadly, this is my opinion, even when he changed the topic of philosophy to what we're supposed to do as well, questioning what we're supposed to do, that is good. They still didn't like that because they thought, why are you questioning what we're doing, what we are doing, or what you're supposed to do, and not just to do it, type of thing. So yeah. And then Plato, I imagined, after seeing what happened to Socrates, Plato didn't receive a lot of judgment, but he experienced such a drastic persecution or execution like Socrates. I think this is probably because since Socrates wasn't as Socrates questioned people out on the street. Plato built his own academy and played a little bit safer, just a tad, but obviously he's still being brave for saying what he believed, obviously. But he played a little bit safer to teach people as well. And then Aristotle, after seeing what happened to Socrates, maybe switched it back again and started observing the world and helping us form logic and thinking things not just through idealism, but also through combined idealism with action, figuring out not only what is good, but how we can consistently be good. Aristotle believed good was not something we can necessarily reach, or agree with Socrates in a way, but his good was also mainly through recurring actions of positive social actions, like positive social regard, which kind of should have saved for my Aristotle video. But yeah. So in conclusion, what is the Platonic forms? The Platonic forms are essence of things, that we cannot see, and we can connect through these forms that are in our reality, but we can't see them through our minds. And once we think about, and we can think about them, but we can't see them. Socrates believes we could think about the good and get closer to the good through conversations and learning with each other and calling out each other what we're doing wrong and growing as people, which is really good and wholesome. But people back then, for some reason, didn't like that to grow. They just wanted to stay the same, I guess, which is, I don't know why. They just wanted to stay the same. Plato viewed that as well. Also, Plato, one key thing about talk about last thing, Socratic intellectualism. Socrates believed ignorance is the root of all evil. Plato more likely believed ignorance, at least I'm not Plato, so I don't know 100%, but I think if I understood this correctly, Plato believed ignorance is all the root of all evil and emotion. So he believed, yes, sometimes people can do things wrong because they didn't know any better, but sometimes they believed people did know better and still did wrong because of lack of will. He called it a lack of will. It let their emotions, they're like, I shouldn't do this, but they still did this. Socrates would argue there's still a lack of emotional knowledge, because if they had that knowledge, they would have not given into it in the first place. So yeah, the Platonic forms are the essence that we can connect through our minds. The triferate soul is the three conflicting things, like the id, ego, superego, reason, spirit, appetite, all battling out. And it's believed that reason should rule over spirit and work together. Spirit being emotion like anger and honor, respect, work together with reason to suppress negative desires, specifically emotional desires like food, hunger, and intimacy that could become overindulgence. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys again for all the recent support. I really appreciate it. As always, thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.